Hello everyone, and we are joining forces today with our two audiences from both of our channels, Rose Red Homestead and Trail Grazers. This video will be posted in both locations because we do have viewers that don't cross over and watch the other side. And both sides have been asking more questions about solar panels. This is going to be a demonstration about how to link panels together in more detail and up closer than we did. We did a similar video when we were tent camping about 3 weeks ago, but I was distracted by what else was going on in the campground, and I think closer up in more detail would be a really good thing. We've had a lot of questions and a lot of interest in solar, and I'm so thrilled that so many of you are wondering about solar and about the possibility of doing it yourself in terms of getting a portable power station. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the kind of solar panels that you buy. And I'm not going to say should buy because it's an individual choice, of course. But here are the possibilities. You can, as we did, buy just the regular ones that you can get from a number of sources that have the industry standard connectors, the MC4 connectors. All of our equipment is MC4 connectors, MC4 cables, and it makes setup a breeze. The difficulty comes when, for instance, you might buy the specialized little setups that are folded together. They're so convenient, and they're made by Jackery or Bluetti or EcoFlow, and they are their own specialized set of solar panels. They come in odd sizes, and they are encased in these little pre-made compartments that you can either fold together like a fan or close up like a book, and then you just open them up. They're pre-wired and they're set up in 2 or 3 minutes, and that is fantastic if you decide to go that way. But here are some caveats for doing that. Number one, we paid about $1 per watt for our solar panels. Here is one of ours. I'm going to take it out of its blanket here in a few minutes and show you some detail. But we paid $99 for 100 watts. That's about $1 a watt. The specialized ones that you get from the manufacturers, like the 3 that I mentioned, are between $2.50 and $3 per watt. That's 2.5 or 3 times more than what we paid for ours. Now, the difference is that it's very easy setup for those. It's not quite as easy for these, although we can do it in about 15 minutes instead of 3 minutes. And so it just depends on how much money you want to save. Also, the other thing to be very aware of is that a lot of the specialized ones, most of the ones I looked at, in fact, are not industry standard MC3 connectors.
MC4.
I'm sorry, you're right. MC4 industry standard connectors. They are instead their own specialized connectors. So you can't buy a Jackery panel, plug it into a Bluetti without an adapter. And let me tell you, trying to find adapters can be a huge headache. I've been through that, and I ended up just buying, I finally gave up, and I just bought a whole great big wad of connectors and finally found one that worked. And this was about 4 years ago with my Goal Zero. And by the way, our little Goal Zero, as I mentioned in a community announcement on both channels, after we did our video on reviewing the Bluetti, and I showed that Goal Zero, 3 days later it died of old age. And so we have replaced it with another Bluetti small one, and when that one comes in a few days, I will also show you that one. I was really quite pleased with that. So I want to talk panels for just a minute and how you place your panels. Generally speaking, you're going to place your panels like this rather than like this. If you buy these plain ones, these regular ones, they work better like this, and you need to set them at a certain angle. So what is the best angle? Now, in the previous video that I did when we were at camp, I said we are at 40 degrees north latitude, so I like to set them at 40 degrees. That's because it is fall. In fall or spring, I match the latitude. If you are at the equator, the sun's rays come in and hit your solar panels at about a 90-degree angle. That is optimum. You want it to hit at as close to 90 as possible. Well, if you are above the equator or below the equator, that doesn't happen. Not only is the Earth tilted either toward the sun or away from the sun, depending on the season, but how high up you are on the Earth, your latitude affects it, the time of year affects it. There's a whole lot of variables. So basically what happens is the sun is lower in the horizon in wintertime, and so you want to raise your panels up so that it hits at about a 90 degrees. In the summertime, the sun is higher, and so you want to reduce the angle of your solar panels so that it is hitting at about 90 degrees. So you want to raise it up in the wintertime and lower it in the summertime according to what your latitude is. Now that difference is about 15 degrees. And so if we're 40 degrees in the wintertime, I'm wanting to raise it to 55. In the summertime, if we're at 40 degrees, which we are, then I want to lower that so that it's at about 25 degrees. So it swings 30 degrees total across your latitude. I hope that helps you figure out about where you want to set your angle when you are using your solar panels. Now, you know, technically you could change them every single day, changing that angle just a little bit each day, but who wants to be bothered with that? I don't. Okay, next what we are going to do is we are going to do a little model, a paper model right here. Here's our Bluetti, and here are our solar panels. Now, we have 4. You may have 1. 1 is easy as pie to set up, but most people have more than 1. You could have 2, or you could have 3, or you could have 4. Now, technically I should have put the paper this way, but I didn't. I just put it this way. Okay, so we have 4. And we're going to connect these in what is called a series. Series connection is where you link one to the other, to the other, to the other. And you do it male to female, or female to male, all the way across. Now that's the way Christmas lights used to be. And if you're as old as I am, you may remember that when one of those little lights went out, the whole string went out. And it took for a long time to figure out which one bulb went out. And once you replaced that, then the circuit was complete again and everything went on. Now, Christmas lights are in parallel. So when one goes out, it goes dark, but the rest don't go dark, and so you can find it much more easily. So the same thing applies a little bit when you do a setup like this. Now, here's what we're going to do. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you the back of ours in reality so you can see what it looks like. But for the outside one, or either one, you can use either one, you're just going to leave that one alone. But then with this other one, you're going to connect it to its neighbor. So here we have negative to positive, and then we're going to do negative to positive, and then negative to positive, and then this one is just going to dangle down. This is a series. Now, what happens if one of these were to break and no longer carry the current, then the whole array is down. If one is shaded, it affects the entire array. So those are kind of the downsides to this. But according to Bluetti, it doesn't matter. You can either do it in a series or you can do it in parallel. So we've chosen to do this in series. Then I have these cables, and I want to show you the MC4 connectors. Here are the 2 MC4 connectors. These are industry standard, male and female, outie, innie, male, female. And so this cable, this is a positive, so we're going to put a negative connector right here, and the negative is the male. So we are going to connect this to a 30-foot cable right here, pretend, and then on the other side, we are going to connect this negative to the female end, which is right here. Now, the reason that we want these 30-foot cables is so that we can have the Bluetti, our solar power station, in the shade or in the tent, somewhere out of the sun. I want distance. And so the current will be generated from converting sunlight to electricity inside these solar panels, and that electricity passes through these cables. Then what? Well, thank you, Bluetti, because what Bluetti has done, and which I deeply appreciate, is the fact, now here is the specialized Bluetti connector. This end goes right in the Bluetti. But right here, they have the standard MC4 connectors. So here is a male end right here. I'm going to connect this one to this, and I'll connect this one to the other one, and then it goes right into the Bluetti, and our array is set up. It's just as easy as that. Okay, so our model is done. We're going to go outside and do it for real in just a minute. First, we're going to take a look at the solar panel so you can see some of those pieces up close. All right, here is our solar panel. Now, you see that it is encased in a blanket. One of our viewers asked me, how do you protect your solar panels when you take them? And that was a concern for us too. At first we sort of wrapped them in the original cardboard that they came in, and then we bought these little racks on the back that allow us to set the angle, and then of course we couldn't keep them in the cardboard anymore. So I looked online and I found these little felt covers like blankets. Now these came with 2 strips of Velcro, and that turned out to be a lifesaver. Now we measured very, very carefully and thought we had plenty of room to hold our solar panels. Like this is like an envelope. It's closed on this end, it's closed on that end, and here's the open end with Velcro. And then there are lots of other connectors that we could fold it over this way, or we could fold it this way if we have a smaller panel. But I measured very carefully, and Jim double checked it, and when we got them home, and there's a handle up here that you can use to carry the whole thing. When we got them home, I had accounted even for the extra width that is right here. So you can see that they are a little bit extra wide with these legs on them. They didn't quite fit. As you can see, they stick up a little bit, so we couldn't put them in the envelope end. And so what I did, after carefully calculating to whether this would work, I just took this seam right here at this end and I cut it open. If you've ever had to pick out stitching, that's what this is. And so I just went all along here and cut this whole thing open. And now I'm going to show you how that worked out. So what happened from here was, once I cut this seam open, we had this flap here and this flap here. And I thought, okay, so what do we need to do? Well, I need a fastener. So I took the extra strips of Velcro and I put one right here, and it's stick-on, and I put the other one right here. So now this one just comes over the top and fastens right there, and then we lift it up by here. We won't lift it by the handle, but we lift it up with our hands tucked underneath here. Okay, so I'm coming over with this so that you can see it. I'm going to take it out of the compartment. So here is our panel. Now, this is the extra rack that we bought. It goes on either side, and So when we get ready to do our panel, so when we take these out of their envelopes, they're folded down like this, but we need to bring them up like this and then fasten this one right down here. So it is one fastener right here, one fastener over on this side, and it takes us about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to get both sides done. And then they're ready to go. So we're gonna get these ready, but I want you, and then this is the last one, the others are already outside. I want you to see what I have done right here. Okay, as I mentioned, the original cables are only about 2 feet. And this is hardly enough to even hook them from one to another to another. So I bought these extension cables. These are 6-foot extension cables, and they give us a lot more maneuvering room. We also bought this little tool kit, which has 2 of these little tools I'm going to demonstrate in a minute, a crimper, and then it has 6 different sets of male and female connectors. And that is because sometimes when you buy the M4 cables, they have connector on one end, but they don't have a connector on the other end. And this is a kit to put the connectors on the other end. We bought them with connectors on both ends, but this little tool, you need to have one of these if you are going to pull these apart. Now, when you fasten these in, they click in, and then they have little tiny things that pop right out to hold it in place. And to try to connect them, you have to squeeze in and pull out. You're all familiar with that kind of a connector. I can't do it with my bare fingers. A lot of people can't do it with their bare fingers. It's really tough. And so this little tool fits right across those little arrows. Boom, it's done. So now I'm just going to put it back. And so you see these little hooky things. That's what comes up inside and snaps in place. Okay, snapped in now. These are ready to go outside, and so are we. So we will meet you outside. So of course it is clouded up. There's thunder. There are a few raindrops here. We're not worried about these monocrystalline panels. They're waterproof or highly water resistant, so it's not a big deal. But we're going to try to hurry and set up. Okay, so I have these 2 cables coming from behind this one. I'm just going to pick one, and this is the one that's going to go over to the Bluetti. Here's my extension cable. This is a male, so I need the female end, which is right here. So I'm going to snap that in place. And we'll move that over there. The other end goes to its neighbor. This is a female, here's the male, and here's the connection. And the female end to the male end goes right here. You can't do these wrong. They fit only one way. And so it works out super wonderful. Female to male here. And then to this extension cable, I need the male end, here it is. And can you hear the thunder? Taking the extension cable over to meet up with the other end of the extension cable, 30 feet over onto the patio where Jim has the Bluetti. So I have the two MC4 ends, one from each of the extension cables, and I simply attach those to their opposites right here. And this goes into the Bluetti. Now that took, what, 2 minutes to get all of that connected. That's what happens when you have the same connectors. So we'll connect this. We may get a little bit. I don't think we'll get a whole lot. And let's check the screen. We have 133 watts coming in, which is amazing for an overcast and rainy day. And so this was down to 85. It'll take a little while to get it back up to 100. And we're not going to leave it out here. We're going to pack it up and take it in. But that's all there is to it. So once you know your equipment and have everything with the same kind of connector, it goes together really, really fast. So I hope this was helpful. And please send us more questions if you want more illustrations on setting up solar. We are happy to do that for you. So thanks for being with us, and we will see you at our next video.